throughout the semester, I'll be doing some drawings over here on the peg bars, peg bar and a little setup, taped down peg bar. This is the one that I got off of Amazon for $7. It's beautiful. But the other program will be Animate. So I got a license for Animate through the school. And essentially, when you open your program, there are preferences. You go into preferences and you can set it for like the dark mode or the light mode. But right now I've got it set to the light mode. I want to get people started just onto the timeline. So I'm just going to kind of show you a few things. I did a previous test, but you're going to have options when you open up your program. It says you want to create something new. Well, that's true. And it's going to ask you, what do you want, HD? All right there, full HD. All of these HD are, it's a pixel size, but it's also a ratio of width to height. And all of these would be 16 by 9 is what it's called, the HD. It's the size of your computer screen. So if you want to create things for a square format like Instagram or something, that's a different aspect ratio, but the 16:9 would be any one of these. Full HD is 1920 by 1080 pixels, and a lot of people want to work in that. You can go a little smaller if you're trying to save on file size. Your computer is getting kind of full. Never for this class work in 4K. I don't want to download files in 4K. I don't want to look at files in 4K. They're like too big for me. So I'll usually work in like this first one, 1280 by 720, which is it'll convert to full HD, but any of that is fine. You are going to have to make one demo reel for your final exam. That's your presentation. So it would be a good idea to try to work in the same size for all of your projects. All right, so the other thing you need to know is frame rate is going to be 24 frames a second. And if you happen to have 30 or something, we can change that while we're in Animate. But this thing here gives you the option to work with other, like a programming feature that's behind the screens, but we're not going to do any programming. So the action script is JavaScript for Flash, and that's essentially, you don't really need to touch the code in here. Some people who have done some programming might, but we're going to just stay with the action script 3, and it's doing all the math and thinking behind every line and every stroke that we make. All right, so we create that, and this will open up. So essentially what we've got here, it's taking its time, is it's a timeline. Okay, up at the top here. I like to keep the timeline at the top. You can set up to be at the bottom. If you work a lot with After Effects, I think the timeline is at the bottom. So I like it at the top because if you start stacking up layers of things, you just sort of scroll this down. Click. I've got my mouse here. You can open up layers like that easily if it's at the top. But you get your sort of comfortable view. I have my tools here. What we're going to do today is just a really quick sort of introduction so you can get started if you want to draw on this timeline with the brush tool. And that's B. B is the hotkey. Maybe write that down if you're going to be working digitally. B and E are the two hotkeys, and you can see over here, that's the eraser is the E, and B is the brush tool. And when I've done effects digitally using Animate or TV Paint or Toon Boom Harmony, those are the 3 programs I animated. But essentially, I've always got B and E, like those are the 2 I use more than anything. All right, so we'll draw with that, and we will draw on the timeline. And you see that, if you can see, there's a little round circle with nothing on it. Can you guys see that? Up on the timeline?
Yes.
Okay. That means there's a blank sheet of paper up there. All right. And so I can't, scrub. I'm trying to grab this playhead and scrub down to put down more blank sheets of paper down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up this timeline with a hotkey. And please write this down. Actually, I have a glove on and the stylus, and I keep going back and forth. I use my mouse and my stylus. But the hotkeys that we've done is B for brush, E for eraser, and then F7. And what F7 is going to do, or function F7, or sometimes it's going to be, excuse me, current layer is either locked. I locked it. Somehow I locked it. Yes. Function F7. On a Macintosh, on a Mac. All right. Because the F keys on a Macintosh are often dedicated to things like, I don't know, FaceTime or I don't, this is a PC I'm working on, so you Mac people know. Sometimes you got to hit that FN key. But when you hit the F7, which would be above the 7, right there, look what happens up on the timeline. Do you see that? You can see what's happening on the timeline?
Yep.
Yep.
It's setting down blank sheets of paper. And I like to think of I'll go back here. I'm going to grab this and go back to this. I like to think of the 7 as a sheet of paper. All right. That's how I memorized it in the beginning of time. All right. So F7 gets your paper out. F7. I'm going to control Z that. If you got a bunch of stuff on a frame and you just want to delete everything at once, click on that frame and then double click the eraser tool. I'm going to blow this away easily. Bam, bam. See, it's gone. Now I've got a blank sheet of paper. All right. And I'm looking at the stage. I'm going to hit Z, Alt, and I can zoom out. All right. Z is a hotkey. I'm going to hit the space bar and I can move this around. All right. I can use this little magnifying glass if I want to go in close, and I'm going to do this because I want to show you something. If you find you've gotten like lost in space and you want to quickly get back to the frame, you see that little hand tool? Double click on the hand tool. Bam, 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 bam. That takes you back to the center, and then you can pull back a little bit here. All right. So this is sort of like a little bit of navigation of some of the tools you would use. And you need some paper set up. This is just a basic. I'll do little demos every week, all right, to keep adding more and more information, but I just want to get you started. And this is the getting started. So I'm gonna label this layer by double clicking on it, and I'm just gonna call it ball, okay, because I'm gonna animate a little ball on that. And then underneath there, I think I want to add like maybe a little arc, right? Like a motion path that the ball might move on and some kind of little background. So you see this little plus sign here? It says you hover over it and it's new layer. And we'll say new layer, and I'm going to call it, I'll call it BG. Okay, for background. And then I'm going to click on the ball layer and move the ball layer above it. All right. Or let's see, this is where I want to pull this out so I can see what's going on. I want to move the background layer underneath. Okay. So now they're set up. And what happened, which is really cool, is the background layer it holds all the way up to, I'm up to frame 29 there. So this is just over a second of time. So let me Z Alt a little bit and then kind of move this around. This is where I want to get. Out there. I got your lovely face. I'm going to just minimize the faces. Minimize. Hide the thumbnail view. Okay. So I got the brush tool that I want to use, and I think next week we'll go into more advanced stuff with the brush tool. I'll do I'm going to lock the layer I don't want to work on. So I'm going to lock the ball layer. I'm just going to maybe set up some arcs. You can choose a color, you know, here, right? One of the things I think I want to pay attention to are these pressure sensitivity options before I draw. It's a good idea to have tilt and pressure sensitivity turned on. You can barely tell that they are on now. They're gray. That should be like, I wish that was a stronger, or maybe it looks better in the dark mode. This next thing is kind of important. It says brush mode, and I'll show you what that is. Just for now, stick to normal. You see there's other brush modes. If you find that you're having problems and your stroke isn't showing up or something, it's probably because you're not in brush mode. I want to make this I'm going to control, do you see that? I want to make this a quick demo. So what I'm going to do is just say stick to normal, and we'll go into brush modes a little bit later. But yeah, you can pick colors, any color that you want. All right, and I'll just kind of go with that. And you can also change, you know, I've got the pressure sensitivity now. So you can see I've got, you know, thick and thin here. And you can also change the size of the brush using the bracket key. If you see now it's really thin, I hit the bracket key that's on the left to make it like thinner. And you did this in Photoshop too. And then the bracket key on the right, and I'm actually holding it down, and you can see you really can get pretty big. All right. And that's the one, it's, you know, it's above the quotes and below the equal signs on the keyboard. That's just the brush size. So, you know, we get to something, oh, that's really big. Get out of here. Get out of here. Bracket key. No, it won't go away. No, I'm holding it down. Okay, so it's going on. So do you guys remember if I want to get rid of something on a frame, what do I do? Somebody tell me.
Double click the eraser.
Yeah, I select a frame. Now, do you see it got everything on that frame got selected at once because I clicked on the frame up here, right? That's instant, like select everything on that frame. And then you were absolutely right. Double click on the eraser. That was just, you know, that was just nonsense. But get the B out again, and it's a smaller one. So I think what I'll do is I'll just put a little horizon here, and the other thing that's still pretty thick. But what I want to do is I want to make arcs, and it's just going to be the ball comes in, and it loses momentum, and it comes out, and then it's going to go. That's it. You know, I mean, that's if I wanted to redo that, I did on Z, but I'll do 1, 2, 3. I don't like that one. I'm having a hard time drawing out. One big one, another one, and then another one, and then he just rolls to a stop. Okay, so that's what I want to do. It's got a lot of energy here, and then a little less, and then a little less, and we can clean that up a little bit. But I'll go with that for now. But I did want to say one other thing about what we're doing here with this brush tool. So you can see, I'm just making a big glob of paint with the brush tool. And it does have a little bit of optimization where it kind of cleans it up a little bit. I'm going to show you what's going on with this. It's a vector is what it is. When we look at something with this selection tool up here, V, you can select something and it puts those white dots around it, like when we clicked on the frame. But I'm going to right click and show you the sub selection tool. And what that'll do is it will show you, I'll zoom in, that what we've actually drawn was a bunch of edit points. Okay, this is the sub selection tool. And you can see there's like one here, and they have those Bezier curves. And this is, you can delete a Bezier, you can delete an edit point. If you like, if I want to get rid of that little point there, I can click on one of those and hit delete. The idea of working with Flash is that it is a vector drawing tool. So when you draw, like I'll get the brush tool back out, B, and you can see when you draw with it, it creates edit points, okay? So all that's here are a little bit of math. This is the JavaScript for math, the action scripting. Behind the screen, it's saying on this stage at the XY coordinate, there's an edit point there, 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 there. I mean, this is it. If we were drawing in a bitmap drawing tool like TV Paint or like a Photoshop, when you draw on a frame, it's keeping track of what's happening on every single pixel on every frame. All right, so this idea of like vector drawing is, let's see, Alt or double click on the hand again. It's a good fast way to get some lines out here on your animation. I'm going to close a few windows. Yeah, the properties box can be very helpful to have open, because when you have things, it's going to give you some information about what's going on. The sub-selection tool. So for instance, I've selected that little ball I made, and I opened this box called the properties, and it's a window. You can find those up in the windows up there. And it's just telling me, you know, the color of it is black. All right, the fill. It's a fill. There's no stroke around it or anything. That's why this is empty, because that would be the stroke. If I wanted to get rid of some of those little edit points, I can, you see that little notch in there? If I smooth it, you see how that removes edit points and removes edit points. You can keep removing edit points by using this until you, I guess you could animate something like that. But essentially, now I've only got like a couple edit points probably. All right, so you can change the properties of, yeah, 2 edit points or 3 maybe, if you can see that. It's really easy to, you know, talk about a lot of different things when you're demoing artwork, but like here, there's 2 or 3 edit points. Over here on this, there's a whole bunch. You can see that, right? I just wanted to introduce you to the idea that Adobe Animate is a vector drawing tool. You can import like photographs or JPEGs or bitmap images that are raster art and not bitmap, but it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention that this is a vector drawing tool, and I like it. I like the ability to have an instant sort of cleanup artist, just hit the properties, you know, hit it once, optimize it. All right, so I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to select these 2 things and delete those 2 things. I'll say this art may not be the perfect art. I want you to make a better art, but for the sake of the demo, I'm going to lock that, and I'm actually going to do something in the properties here. Is I'm going to reduce the let's see if this works, opacity a little bit, just so it minimized it just a little bit. That was, oh, what I did was I right-clicked, okay, and I went down to the properties for that, and yeah, you can change that. So it's a little diminished a little, you know, and then just so I can draw on top of it here. So I've locked the BG layer, and I'm going to go up here, and like, I thought we were just going to draw. Okay, so essentially, if you're going to draw frame by frame, and we will add in-betweens needed, just it's it's get the brush tool out. Maybe I'll just go back here. And I think what I will do, before I even do that, I'm going to make one more layer so I can demo on another layer too, right? We'll make this invisible, make that invisible for now. I want to just draw up here a bunch of things, and then we'll come back and do the bouncing ball, right? Let's see, F7. All right. On this first frame, and I'll just call you test, all right? I'll draw, and I got the ball out. I'm going to make it a different color here with the blue. All right. I'm going to use the space bar, kind of move this up here. All right, get set up, get the B out, start animating, man. All right, so essentially I've got a ball. I'm just going to do the first one, just going up and down. And I go, that brush is kind of big. So remember the bracket key? I'm getting a smaller brush tool. Yeah, I think I want something a little bigger than that, all right? Like that. Now I could just hit the eraser tool and start erasing, but I think what I'll do is I'll hit the V selection tool, this garbage I don't want, and then I'll just delete it. All right, so I made my first little ball, and I'm going to have you can set up your hotkeys on your Wacom tablet, on your tablet. I'm using B and E. Clean this up a little bit. And the brush has got a size too, so you got to pay attention to that. I'm going to go to the next frame, and wouldn't it be great if we could see like the previous frame? And this is where, you know, being able to flip your artwork or scrub back and forth, or seeing onion skinning like on a light table comes in handy. There's a couple ways to scrub back and forth, and one is to use the playhead, but that's so tedious. So we'll use the hotkey on the keyboard, which is, if you want to go back a frame, that's go back a frame. If you want to go forward, the greater than is go forward. So I want to go forward, so I'll hit the greater than sign. And then I want to see the previous frame. So here's this little, here it is, the onion skin. It's the two dots next to each other, meaning one dot would be what you're going to draw, and the onion skin is sort of grayed out. So the icon, I think, is telling the previous frame is the blue line there. And then what's going to come next, we can extend how many frames you see, and before and after. So I'm just going to go for the ones before. We're going to be drawing on frame 2, and it even shows you right here, frame 2. So you get used to this stuff. Now, one of the things I want to do, this ball is it's going to squash down and then jump up. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have it squash down, and you go, okay, so there's your squash, right? And I might want to add in-betweens in there. We'll do that later. Now, you can see I'm drawing kind of rough. That's what we do. We do, you know, a sketch, and everybody's like so ready to, it's got to be perfect line, got to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a perfect line. We sketch first. That's why you took life drawing for animation, or are taking it, is so you could get used to sketching. All right. So I'm going to go to the next frame, and now I see 2. I get my brush back out. I want him to jump up a little bit, little stretch, right? So this, I'm going to add in-betweens in there. These are just like, I'm just starting to animate, and then he's going to come up, maybe coming up, boom, he's ricocheting up, and the next one. And you're like, well, why don't you just copy and paste the last frame? It's like, I don't want to do that. That's not how I operate. Like, so you can, you know, you could just select that, command copy. Well, don't do that. Don't do that. Have some fun drawing. All right. Let's just say it's going to come up to here. We can clean this all up later. And then the next one, trying to maintain volume. That's one of the principles. And he's going to slow into this. and then slow into here, and then slow into here, and then very slow here. Okay, so I've animated some stuff, and let's take a look. Bloop, bloop. Okay, so turn off the onion skin. Bloop, 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 bloop. Okay, a couple things. Okay, was that fun? If this was it, let me come back to you guys. I'm going to go ahead and file save this. Okay, we're going to come back and do more with this. Save that. Let me come back and talk to you guys for a moment. Does that look like fun?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So you can see if we stick with the basics here, the basic stuff, the simple stuff to get started, it's not too painful, right? To work with this program, right? Not too painful to get started. Of course, there's more, there's always more. But if this was sort of like an in-class and everybody was working at computers, we'd all do this together, right? And then be ready to sort of jump in and do some animation, right? You want me to show you how to add some in-betweens in case we wanted to slow that down and how to export a movie, right? Okay. Does anybody have a question about what I just covered? Because basically I just covered how to get some simple drawing onto the timeline and use a background. I know this is all being recorded, so you can come back and you can do this step by step. If this is brand new to you, you know, that's what you want to do. If you've been animating for a while, any amount of time, you're like, man, that was what we did in freshman year of high school, you know. So, but I get it. Look, I didn't animate till I was in college. I mean, I can tell you the story. It was like my eyes got open wide and I'm like, I want to do that, you know. So this is a good time to be exposed to stuff that you want to do. And then we're going to get back onto the paper and show you some paper tricks too. All right, so I'm going to minimize your beautiful faces. I'm over here and I'm going to hit Control and Enter. And you can see that's what I animated, okay? And what that does is it makes, you know, it's called a Swift shockwave file. It's what that is. In Maya, they call it a play blast. It's a quick little way to look at what you just did. The other way to look at it is to hit the Enter key, and then it plays the whole thing there too. All right. So there's two ways to look. Well, three, because you can also just sort of, you know, scrub through it. All right, scrub through it. So let's just say I wanted to start this by like holding on this little guy here for a few frames. So I'm going to use a hotkey called F5 or function F5. And what that does is it takes whatever is on a frame, all right, and it holds it. F5 is hold, all right, and that's what we call it in animation. We call it a hold, all right. So here's the, delete that. So I'm going to click on this frame right here. And also it pushes everything down. So what you're going to see is everything get pushed down. I've selected that first ball, and you can see the little dots are on it to show it's selected. The frame is selected, the item's selected. And I go up. F5 is above the 5, a little to the left of it. And you see how when I tap it, it pushes things down. You see that? You got to select on the frame, and then it pushes it down. So now it's holding for 6 frames. So that's 1/4 of a second at 24 frames a second. That's 1/3 of a second at 24 frames a second. So now I've got a little bit of, it got maybe a beat, all right, before it goes into in between, all right. So I'm going to actually convert this last frame into a keyframe. I'm going to right click and convert to a keyframe there. Now that ball, that last ball there is now the same as the first ball. All right. They're identical with a long hold in there. The reason I wanted to do that was because I actually want to do something in here. I want to add some in-betweens. So I'm going to put in another F5 here. And I'm going to right click on this extra hold right here. And I am going to say, instead of convert it to a keyframe, I'm going to convert that to a blank keyframe. Okay. Now what that gave me the opportunity to do was open the onion skin up, truncate it to that one and this one. And see, I want to go in here tight and I want to do some in-betweens, right? Between those two posts. I want it to ease down. So I'm going to draw an in-between. And that means I want the volume to maintain the same. So I want to keep it on the floor here. I want it to be about there and about here. I'm doing an in-between. And now you can see something's happening. The black dot, the clear dot has turned into a black dot. And I'm just putting a line in between all these lines. I can go in and clean this up later. But now this is going to slow this down a little bit. All right. So now he'll be cushioning. He'll be, turn off the onion skin. He'll be, it's a he, I guess. It's a they. Cushions down before he jumps up. A little anticipation before he goes up. All right. And I think I want another in between these two. So I'm going to use the F5. I'm going to create a hold there, and I'm going to convert that extra drawing here into right click. I'm going to convert that to the blank keyframe. The thing I selected up there, the frame I selected, convert it to a blank keyframe. That's how I do it. Now I've got these two drawings. And again, I can see, all this stuff that comes after, but I just want to see the one before and the one after. And again, it looks a little sloppy. I'll clean it up. But to me, cleanup is like a separate job. And animation is a different job. So I like to kind of get my animation done. This is a cleaner line because, we could probably do better than that. But I like to work really energetically when I'm animating. I'll show you some of my water splashes. There, lots of energy in it, and then the cleanup comes later. But this is how we get started. All right, so I'll turn off the onion skin, and you can see that that's a cleanup drawing, but it's okay. So let's just see what it looks like. I'm gonna double click on the hand, and I'll Control Enter, and we'll see the. So I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little more push at the beginning of it, squash and stretch. All right. Let's pretend we really didn't want to see all this other stuff, because I don't. You get, well, it's invisible. Why is it showing up? Let me show you something. There's a trick. If, like, I've got this BG layer with my arcs on it, I right click on it. You turn that into what's called a guide layer. The layer that's selected, the BG. When you make your SWF, your shockwave file with Control Enter, it's disappeared. Okay. Okay, so that's a little bit of the bouncing ball. I mean, what we would do is maybe spend 3 hours animating bouncing balls for the rest of the day, and just have some fun with that, and try different properties, different characteristics, and also put them on those arcs that we've got going there. You can do some things. Yes, you can do things like right now, I think my size has changed. I didn't maintain volumes. It looks like he's a big ball there and he got really little there. So let's just pretend I wanted to scale that a little bit. All right, so you can select something. It's V selects it. This free transform tool, which is oddly called Q. I don't know why they have it called Q. If you hit that, it gives you a transform ability to get in there. I think I want to get in really close. Shift should constrain it to select, and then Q. Shift selects it to where that pivot point is, that white, it should. Right. See, I've got the shift key held down, so then it's giving me the ability to make it as big or as little as I want. You can see it's really little there, and I'm just sort of showing you, maybe that'll make it more the size I want it. I think I blew it out of there. So there's that, and then I might hit my E. I don't know about you, but I think animation is fun. And I mean, that's how I got hooked on it pretty early on. And, you know, my friends in high school, they said, I mean, not high school, it was college. They're like, why don't you just take an illustration class? You do one drawing and then you're done. And you're like, well, I'm actually having fun here. You remember that little properties box I showed you? You can pull that out too. Properties. And I can smooth this a little bit and just sort of get rid of a few edit points here and there. A little bit, you know, you can do that. And you can manipulate the vector edges. Don't go crazy though with your cleanup on this first test. You know, I want to see your animation. Like this is pretty ratty. If I looked at the amount of edit points in that, you can tell that's got a lot of edit points. Check it out. Look at that. Oh my God. Oh my God. I must have, take the coffee away, please. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to optimize that one a little bit with my, and actually it's over here too. When you have something selected, that property is contextual. It says selected. You see down here, we've got the little S for smoothen it. If you straighten it, it's just going to be, no, straighten it, because you can undo. All right, let's straighten it. Straighten it really goes, it turns everything into sort of really straight lines. You don't really want that. So undo, 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 undo. This is what we started with. Let's just smoothen it, which will take a few of those edit points out a little bit more. So there, we've got an assistant animator helping us. Okay, so that was a few things to think about. Is any of that? Let me come back and talk to you guys, because I want to show you the traditional stuff too. All right.
Kate?
Yeah.
Just a quick question. If
Yeah.
you were interested in scaling multiple frames at the same time, could you do like a multi-selection on those frames, or would you have to do them one by one?
Oh, you had to ask. Yeah, there's a way. There's and this is a kind of, this is right next to the onion skin. All right, let me show you. This is advanced stuff. All right, but you asked. Have you worked with Animate before? Is this your,
No, this is my first time.
okay? Well, you like to jump right in the deep end. All right, but this is, I'd say, okay, you want to edit multiple frames. What you're asking for is, can you edit multiple frames? Right, that's the question. So let me come back here. Where's the animation? Okay, I double clicked on the hand, it didn't come back. Okay, so here's the animation. Let's just say I wanted to move everything or scale it, but you know, we wanted to do something, okay? We want to edit multiple frames. So you click on the edit multiple frames. And what you see up here is, instead of that 2 colored bars, it's saying, what frames do you want to edit, okay? Well, we'll just say everything we just did there, and maybe even the background. We want to edit all of that, okay? So it's selected those frames. And there's like, the other thing you'll do is you will pick the first frame, and because we want the background too, all the way, we're going to shift, because we're going to edit everything. Okay, let's get this back in. All right, I had to go back in there. So essentially what I've done was I told it the span of frames I want to change. And then I also selected the stuff on the frames. Let me make sure I've got everything selected, and all of it. I'm just going to keep selecting things. All right. So I've got everything selected here. This. We can do this a few times if I get it wrong, but it's like, here's this, and then shift to that. That's like everything selected. You can see it's all selected. And then what I'm going to do is I want to move it and make it bigger. So I'm going to transform. That word always like got me. Transform. It's almost like transformation is this like from a self-help book. You know, transform just means you're changing something. So we're making a transformation. So I'm going to click the transform tool. And this is where you want to scale it bigger, right? So I'm going to, again, it's going to go towards this pivot point. Wherever that pivot point is, that's going to be the center of it. Okay. So it's going to get bigger. Let's just see. We'll scale it. Shift. All right. Sometimes if there's a lot of edit points, it's really thinking hard. So it might go a little slow and chunk, but now we've got it bigger. And we also want to move it. And I'm going to nudge it over more towards the center. So rather than sliding it, like pulling it, I'm going to use the arrow key to nudge it over. That's what I'm doing with the arrow key next to the 0. Move it down a little bit. I think it's a little. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so we've transformed it. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks.
Now then, let's unselect, because this is dangerous, because you don't want to stay and edit multiple frames, or you're really messing things up, So let's just see what, and it's done. That's done. It's a done deal now. Let's just do a quick, I call it a play blast, and that's Control Enter. All right. All right. All right. So we would continue and then bring this thing down. All right. I'm gonna stop right there, and I want to look at you guys. Does anybody else have any questions while we're in Animate?
I do have one.
Mm-hmm.
When you're editing multiple frames, do you have to do them all in a sequence, or can you like deselect some in the middle?
Oh yeah, you could do a couple, because you're truncating it to, the ones that you want to change. You see, you could change like those.
So could you like change the first one and the third one and deselect the middle one?
I've never tried to do that, actually. No, I don't see how, because it gives you a span. Look at that. Let me try to like control. If control is usually a way to deselect something when you have a span select. No, who's asking that question?
Me, Bethany.
Bethany. Okay. I don't think so. I don't think so. You took us into an interesting place there. Okay, give it a try, but I've never tried to do that. Never needed to do that. Okay, so I'm going to get out of edit multiple frames there. F. Let's see, hotkeys that you'll be using a lot. F5 and F7, F6 turns things into it is a keyframe. We work with keyframes. If you've got something that's held and you want to manipulate one frame, like let's just say for some reason I wanted this thing to be red before it starts moving. Okay. All right. Like let's just say on that frame I want it to be, it would need to be a keyframe. So I'd hit that frame and you convert it to a keyframe by hitting F6. All right. Now I could like change the color here by just tapping on another color. So it would, I don't know, why would you want to do that? But boom, it's like it's going to be magical before it moves or something. Okay, so there's some basic things. Then the last thing you want to do, of course, is save. All right, and then you want to export here, export a video. Render video is what we're going to do. And then you're going to deliver your FLA, which is Flash. That's your animate. They still call it Flash. And your movie. So the movie is going to be 24 frames a second. It's the field size is going to be there. That's the stage. Yeah, you probably want the stage color to be there because if you ignore the stage color, it's going to be like black, like it's going to be an alpha, you know, if there's nothing there. So let's give it whatever state. If you wanted to change the stage color, okay, before you even do that, we go up to modify here, document, and let's just say right now it says the stage color is white, right? And let's just say we wanted to make it like a little color there, you know, and you could go in and paint the ball if you, but this, we don't need anything painted really, but anyway, that's how you would change the stage color. So let's go to export video. And this will take us through this AME, Adobe Media Encoder, which comes with the Creative Suite that you have access to. And essentially, that I call that the meat grinder of all the Adobe products. And H.264 should work fine. We'll call it ball test Friday. Okay, export it, and it says start the Adobe Media Encoder queue. It'll open up, and we'll just tell it to give us our movie, hitting a few things. Maybe it already did. Okay, so that's what we want to do. There we go. Here's the queue. Okay. This is in the way. And it says it's done. It already did it. Okay. And then it's on the desktop. This looks a little bit scary. But this is where you can convert your files if they're the wrong compression or the wrong size, or oh, it's the Adobe Media Encoder. Has been successfully created. Okay, let's take a look at it. Demo there. Oh, so I didn't tell it to see. This is what happens if you tell it to ignore the background, and I forgot to do that. So there, that's what you get. If I wanted the stage color, I would have gotten the stage color. So there you have it. Okay.